Morning, everybody. Sorry for getting to you a day late. I was taking the day off for the July 4th weekend. Those of you that have been following the nightly builds might have noticed that I did push a couple new things, and the change log has a couple changes in there. Just to go over them, what happened was when I started work on the mapping control that allows you to actually pick and choose which channels you want to map from and to, I ran into the difficulty where the enumeration was defining a lot of channels in order to encompass things like the keyboard and the mouse and controllers and various other functions that I wanted to be able to map to and from. And that list was just getting way out of hand, and the actual channel selection box was a complete mess. So I've done a little tweaking, and actually quite a bit of tweaking. I've changed the entire way that I'm passing device states, and now instead of using a centrally defined device state, which kind of encompasses everything including the mouse and the keyboard and a bunch of other stuff that most controllers aren't going to use, I'm now using an interface, a generic empty interface, and then a couple predefined standard controller types, and with the addition that any plugins that are added can expand on this interface and add even more channels. And so long as the channel names match up between devices, the mapping will stay automatic. And if not, it'll still use reflection to go into those interfaces before the program runs and generate a list of channels that have been added by that plugin, so they're still mappable and still selectable in the drop down. And this will help me keep it a lot more organized. Only use the channels that are actually being used by plugins, and allow plugins to be able to expand on the channels on, non-generic types of channels such as the trackpad on the DualShock 4. So that was a huge change in the back end of how InputMapper is structured, and it ran into a couple problems with the old mapping middle layer that I was in the middle of writing. It didn't really work too well with all these unknown types and all these unknown properties, and trying to use reflection when trying to map them in real time was slowing everything down. So I had to create like a cache to access these accessors of the properties, which is kind of speeding everything up. So pretty much it's going in and it's going to all these plugins now, and it's caching all the device state possibilities and the channels, and it's using that cache to actually do the communication between the input device and the output device. So I'm able to keep latency low when you're mapping. And I also add a provision where it completely skips the mapping layer if there are no mappings present in the profile, meaning you're just using direct device to device mapping. You want to use the default channels. It'll completely skip that middle layer and keep latency as fast as absolutely possible, even though the mapping itself is using nanoseconds, something that can't even reasonably be measured. So that's pretty much what I'm working on. I've also I have to change the plugins that I have uploaded to the GitHub because they don't reflect these changes yet. So I want to get those updated. I want to push a new nightly build and allow people, if anybody's playing around with this stuff, to be able to play around with different plugins and all that stuff. So that's what I have going on this week. I'm hoping to have the mapping middle layer done this week. I've even included things such as, since we have the ability to map from any channel to any channel now, I added the ability to choose which type of channel mixing is going on, meaning you can have two channels mapped to one channel, and then there's a option where you select how you want to mix those values into that one channel. If you want to average them, if you want to take the highest, if you want to take the lowest, if you want to take the most recent. So that's a couple things I'm working on. Stay tuned. I hope to have these nightly builds, or at least the new nightly build with some of the new stuff that I've talked about, up today. So everybody have a good one.